Okay, I have a next guest. Same questions. What's your name and what brings you to JCON?
Hello, my name is Usman Ahmad, and I'm a speaker at JCON. Actually, I wanted to give a talk like how you can visualize log, metrics, and traces for your Java application. And that was the main topic of my talk. And since I work for Grafana Labs, so the highlight was like how you can use all the open source tool that Grafana provides and monitor and visualize all these things.
I used Grafana a bit myself to visualize data. Does it always come together with Prometheus?
Yeah, that's a very good question, actually. For starters, Grafana has a very good reputation in the market. But if you ask someone on the street or like any tech guy, the first thing comes like Grafana. That means Prometheus. But it has changed, and Grafana now supports a lot of data sources. We have a whole catalog of plugins where we can you can define data sources, panels, and even apps from our community as well. And for example, you can use Grafana to visualize all your GitHub metrics, or you can use Grafana to visualize something like MySQL. And this is without any usage of Prometheus. So it has changed a lot. And for viewers who are might be more interested, they can check grafana.com/plugins, and they can see a whole catalog of Grafana.
Okay. What tools would you highlight or systems to integrate with Java applications?
Yes. So nowadays, the industry is very rapidly growing, and especially if someone knows about the CNCF landscape, there was a very big investment on a project called Open Telemetry. But before Open Telemetry, we should go one step back. It was the default in standard is to use Prometheus to capture all the metrics. Uh, Open Telemetry now is the most contributed project of the CNCF landscape so far. But what highlight is that you can actually use both. You can go Open Telemetry and or you can go Prometheus, because we have to know the fact that every industry or every company has different set of standards or workflows. So if someone may want to use Prometheus, yes, you can use that. And when we are talking just Prometheus, then you need something to visualize. So normally you can use something like an open source stack of Grafana to work as a data source with Prometheus, and you can visualize everything. However, metrics are just not enough because it can tell you like where the CPU goes high or down. So you probably need more than just one thing. So that means you need logs, you need also maybe tracing, and somewhere you might need more advanced troubleshooting, and for that you can use profiling. So this is what we called LGTMP stack, so logs, metrics, traces, and profiling. And this is a completely composable open source stack, and you can use this with Grafana.
And if you're using Spring, like probably a big part of the Java visitors here, Spring has some open telemetry and Prometheus endpoints by default that you can very easily enable, right?
Yes, actually, I got a question in my talk that like using Spring, and they have like multiple microservices. So, for example, in the world of Java, there's a known tool as Micrometer, and it is compatible with Prometheus, right? So you can use Prometheus, which works with the Spring Boot services, and you can visualize all these metrics in Grafana. One addition is that we recently launched Grafana 12, I think just about 1 week ago, and we added some cool features. So one of the feature, or which was also highlight of my talk, is that you have a lot of things like when we talk about logs, metrics, traces, basically we are talking about the three pillars of observability, and also the fourth pillar is the profiling. That means that you have to learn how to write PromQL, how to write LogQL for logs, and maybe you can't memorize each and everything. So what we did is that we created an app which is called Drill Down app, and with that you can get all these metrics on the fly. Only you need to configure is the endpoint, so you don't need to memorize each query. You just need to see like, okay, select this result, and you will get it directly in Grafana.
Yeah. Where I used it in the previous company I worked for was visualizing a world map with all the locations where we had our robots installed. So this could really request the data from an API. So you don't need to have somewhere in between constant logging into Prometheus. You can really, from Grafana, call an API and visualize that data.
Yeah, exactly. And this also, so just before we were talking about plugin, like you asked a very good question that everything is might be Grafana means Prometheus. So Grafana has one cool plugin because imagine that you have your Spring Boot service and there is a API endpoint, which is important, but somehow it is not defined in your Prometheus tool. So, but you have the access to get some sort of metrics using curl command. But curl again, we're talking about like very low level on the shell. Grafana has a plugin called Infinity Data Source plugin. What it does is that you can define like an API endpoint inside the Infinity plugin, inside actually Grafana editor, and say like this is my endpoint and I just want to get the results of get request. That will be visible inside Grafana as a visualization table panel or something, and then you can modify it and create like a fancy graph. So this is, I think, most advanced and cool feature is to use these sort of plugins.
And all these plugins, Grafana, is that all open source and free, or is there some kind of licensing model?
So Grafana has three licensing models. So the first one is the open source one. You can use this whole stack and even like Infinity Data Source plugin as open source. This is completely open source. You don't need to even pay a penny for it. Then we have the other model is the enterprise one. If you don't want to manage your Grafana instance by yourself, then we can do that. And definitely last but not least is the cloud. For the cloud, you basically say that we manage it, and obviously in cloud you get more advanced features which are cloud related. For example, if you are running Kubernetes applications, so there are some built-in integrated tools in the Grafana cloud that helps to monitor your Kubernetes server more better. So yeah, but I would say that which I also prefer that start with the Grafana open source, feel how it works, and maybe if you need more, then go beyond.
And this all runs in Docker. It runs on Raspberry Pi. I can ensure that I'm running it on Raspberry Pi. So it's a great tool. What are you at this conference? There's a lot of talks about Java and evolutions. How do you look at this community and what's happening with the Java?
Yeah, so this for me this is a very interesting question because being in the tech and also in my past experience I supported working for the Java application. People have maybe in some places saying like Java is dead or something is not broken in Java, but this is not the truth. I think every application matters because like I also was a PHP developer. Sometime PHP was gone, but it come back very strong. So if realizing from this community there is much more going in Java than you can't think of. And even there were not just my talk, but there are some folks who also talk like how you can do all this advanced visualization or using OpenTelemetry with Java. And they are like very hardcore Java developers. They love Java, they know Java, and they want to make the community better by jumping into this landscape of open source observability tools. So Java is definitely not going anywhere, and basically it's growing stronger day by day.
And with great tools like Grafana, we can visualize what we're doing in a very nice way.
Yeah, definitely. Grafana has its own charm, and I think Grafana has made the market in a way because so I work in Grafana mostly in the OSS part. I don't work in the cloud or specific region, at least for now. What I found after talking to some people that they say like, hey, our tool also do visualization, but it's open, and they say also open source, but only one stack is open source. What Grafana provides is that you can even use visualizing logs like using Loki tool, which is also open source, same for tracing, profiling, and so on. So this is where Grafana, I think, outsmarts others. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the nice explanation. Thank you for being here and taking the time for the interview, and have fun.
Thank you very much.